I, 30M, really need to get this off my chest because what happened recently has left me feeling both angry and vindicated. Our family has been in the manufacturing business for 3 generations. My grandfather started it, my father expanded it, and I was supposed to be the one to take it to the next level. At least that's what I thought until my parents decided that my brother-in-law would be a better choice just because he's married to their favorite daughter. I joined our family business right after completing my MBA 6 years ago. I could have taken high-paying jobs at several multinational companies, but I chose to work with my dad because I grew up watching him run this business and I wanted to continue our family legacy. My sister Daphne, 34F, never showed any interest in the business. She got married to Ethan, 35M, 7 years ago and became a stay-at-home mom. I never liked Ethan from the start. He's one of those guys who think they know everything about business just because they read a few entrepreneurship books. He has a bachelor's degree in communications and spent most of his career jumping from one sales job to another, never staying at one place for more than a year. But he always had big talk about how he could run any business successfully if given a chance. When I joined our company, things weren't great. We were using outdated systems, our client base was shrinking, and our profits had been stagnant for years. I spent countless nights studying our operations, talking to employees, and learning everything I could from my dad. I implemented new inventory management systems, digitized our records, brought in modern machinery, and expanded our marketing efforts. Within 3 years, our profits increased by 40%. My dad was really proud and would often tell people how I was born to run this business. Everything was going well until about 2 years ago when Ethan suddenly started showing interest in our business. He began coming to our house for dinner 3 or 4 times a week, always steering the conversation toward business. At first, he would just ask questions about how things worked, but gradually he started suggesting changes we should make. Most of his ideas were impractical or had already failed in the past, but my sister Daphne would always praise him like he was some business genius. My mom has always favored Daphne. She's the perfect daughter who got married young, gave them 3 grandchildren, and always agrees with everything they say. I, on the other hand, focused on my education and career. I'm still single at 30, which according to my mom is practically a crime. She never misses a chance to remind me how I should settle down like my sister. I started noticing changes in how my parents behaved about a year ago. My mom began talking about how family-oriented Ethan was and how he would do anything to provide for his wife and kids. She would constantly tell my dad that maybe we should give Ethan a chance in the business. My dad initially disagreed, saying Ethan had no experience in manufacturing, but my mom and Daphne kept working on him. Then, 8 months ago, my dad called a family meeting. I thought it was about our upcoming expansion plans that I had been working on for months. Instead, he dropped a bomb that still makes my blood boil when I think about it. He announced that since he was planning to retire next year, he wanted to start training his successor. I wasn't surprised by this part, I had been practically running the company anyway. But then he said he had chosen Ethan to take over. His reasoning? Ethan was more experienced in life because he was married with kids and would be better at handling the responsibility. He said the business needed someone stable and family-oriented at its helm. When I pointed out my MBA, my years of experience in the company, and all the improvements I had made, my mom jumped in saying I was being selfish and that family comes first. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was family too, their actual son. But apparently, being their favorite daughter's husband carried more weight than being their son who had dedicated his entire career to the business. The worst part came when my sister Daphne, with that smug smile I've grown to hate, told me that Ethan would generously let me stay in the company and work under him if I wanted. She said I could learn a lot from him. That night, I went home and really thought about my options. I had saved quite a bit of money over the years, living frugally while my sister and Ethan bought a big house and luxury cars. I had also built strong relationships with our clients and suppliers. Most importantly, I knew the industry inside out. The next morning, I handed in my resignation. My parents were shocked. They probably thought I would accept their decision like I had accepted all their favoritism toward Daphne over the years. My dad tried to convince me to stay, saying we could work something out where Ethan and I could run the business together. But I knew that would never work. Ethan was already acting like he owned the place, and I refused to be subordinate to someone who knew nothing about our industry. When word got out that I was planning to start my own business in the same field, my parents lost it. They accused me of betraying the family. My mom said I was trying to hurt them deliberately by becoming their competitor. I reminded them that they were the ones who betrayed me first by choosing an outsider over their own son who had proven himself time and time again. That was 8 months ago. I've hardly spoken to them since then, except at a couple of family weddings where we maintained a cold civility. I used my savings and took out a small loan to start my own manufacturing unit. Many of our old clients, who had worked with me for years and trusted my expertise, switched to my company. My business is already doing well, and every time my parents hear about my success through relatives, they try to reach out to patch things up. But I ignore them because I know they're only reaching out because they see I'm successful, not because they regret their decision. I know some people might think I'm being harsh by competing with my family's business, but I believe I made the right choice. Why should I have stayed and worked under someone who had no qualifications just because he married my sister? Sometimes you have to look out for yourself because clearly, no one else will. Update 1. A lot has happened since my last post, and honestly, watching everything unfold has been both satisfying and sad. Remember how my parents chose Ethan because he was more experienced in life and would be better at handling responsibility? Well, those words are coming back to haunt them in ways none of us expected. I've been hearing about the chaos at my family's business through my cousin Mark, who still works there as a senior manager. According to him, Ethan has been making one disastrous decision after another. Within just 2 months of taking control, he fired most of our experienced management team, people who had been with the company for 15 to 20 years and knew every aspect of the business. His reason? He said they were too set in their old ways and weren't innovative enough. The truth is, these managers often questioned his ridiculous ideas, so he replaced them with his friends from his previous sales jobs. These new people have zero experience in manufacturing. One of them used to sell insurance, another was a real estate agent, and none of them understand how a manufacturing unit operates. Ethan's latest brilliant idea was to completely change our product line. Our company has been known for high-quality industrial equipment for 3 generations. We had a loyal customer base and a solid reputation in the market. But Ethan decided that we should switch to producing consumer electronics because that's where the big money is. He didn't do any market research, didn't consider our existing capabilities, and didn't even consult with any industry experts. He just had a gut feeling that this was the right move. The most alarming part came to light last week when Mark told me that Ethan had taken out massive loans to fund these changes. He convinced my dad to sign papers for multiple bank loans, using company assets as collateral. My dad, who still owns the majority shares, apparently trusted him blindly because he's family. From what Mark could gather, Ethan has already borrowed almost as much as the company's annual revenue. The situation in the factory is even worse. The new management team has no idea how to handle the workers or maintain quality standards. 3 of our best supervisors quit last month because they couldn't deal with Ethan's erratic management style. Apparently, he comes to work late, calls endless meetings where he just talks about his vision, and when things go wrong, which is increasingly often, he throws temper tantrums and blames everyone else. My sister Daphne is still living in her own world. She keeps posting on social media about how proud she is of her entrepreneur husband who is modernizing the family business. When some of our old employees commented about the problems, she blocked them and told everyone they were just jealous of Ethan's success. Last week, my mom tried to reach out to me through my aunt. She didn't apologize for what they did, of course. Instead, she asked if I could give Ethan some friendly advice since I had more experience in the industry. She said it would be good for the family if I helped him. I couldn't help but laugh. I reminded my aunt to tell my mom that if they wanted my expertise, they should have thought about that before choosing him over me. My mom called me directly the next day, angry that I had refused to help. She said I was being petty and letting my ego get in the way of family harmony. I asked her where this concern for family harmony was when they dismissed my years of hard work and chose Ethan just because he was married to their favorite daughter. She hung up on me. Meanwhile, my business is doing better than I expected. I've already captured about 20% of the market share in our region. Most of our old suppliers prefer working with me because I maintain professional relationships and pay on time, unlike Ethan who apparently tries to renegotiate prices after delivery. 3 more of our old clients switched to my company last week after Ethan missed their delivery deadlines. The most interesting interaction happened yesterday when Daphne showed up at my office unannounced. She looked less smug than usual. She started by saying that family should stick together and that I should help Ethan for the sake of our parents' legacy. I reminded her of how she had smugly told me I could work under Ethan if I wanted. Her response? That was different because back then we thought Ethan would succeed. I couldn't believe her audacity. I asked her if she realized what she had just said, that they gave the business to Ethan without any guarantee of his capabilities, while I had already proven myself. She started to make excuses, but I cut her off and asked her to leave. As she was leaving, she turned and said I would regret not helping family. I told her I already regretted the years I wasted trying to prove myself to a family that would never value me as much as they valued her husband. The whole situation is a mess, but I'm focusing on growing my business. Several more employees from my family's company have contacted me asking if I have positions available. I've hired a few who I know are good workers. As for my family, they made their choice, and now they have to live with the consequences. I'll update again if anything significant happens, but from what I'm hearing, things are only going to get worse at my family's business. Update 2. Everything has completely fallen apart at my family's business, and what's come to light in the past few weeks is worse than anyone could have imagined. Remember Mark, my cousin who kept me informed about what was happening? Well, he contacted me urgently last month with information that even shocked me, despite my low opinion of Ethan. It turns out Ethan hasn't just been making terrible business decisions, he's been actively hiding the extent of the damage he's caused. Mark discovered this when he was helping the accounts department prepare some vendor payment reports. He noticed large discrepancies between the numbers Ethan was showing my dad and the actual financial statements. The situation came to a head when 3 of our major suppliers stopped deliveries due to unpaid bills. My dad finally stepped in and demanded to see the detailed financial reports that Ethan had been too busy to share for months. What they discovered was devastating. The business had lost almost 70% of its value in just 6 months under Ethan's management. But that wasn't even the worst part. Ethan had been taking out multiple loans using company assets as collateral without fully disclosing the terms to my dad. He had apparently convinced my dad to sign papers that he claimed were routine business documents. The total amount he borrowed was nearly double what we originally thought. And instead of investing this money in the business as he claimed, he had been playing the stock market, trying to make quick profits to cover his mounting losses. When confronted, Ethan tried to justify his actions by saying he was trying to multiply the company's wealth quickly because the traditional manufacturing business was too slow. He admitted to losing significant amounts in risky day trading but claimed he could recover it all with one good trade. The delusion of this man is truly astounding. My sister Daphne's reaction to all this was perhaps the most infuriating part. Instead of accepting that she and our parents had made a catastrophic mistake in trusting Ethan, she tried to deflect blame onto me. She's been going around telling relatives that if I hadn't left and started competing with them, Ethan wouldn't have been under so much pressure to perform. According to her, Ethan only took such risks because he was trying to prove himself in the face of my hostile competition. The stress of discovering the true state of the business took a severe toll on my dad. He had a minor heart attack when he found out about all the hidden loans and gambling with company money. He's recovering now, but his doctors have advised him to avoid stress, which is impossible given the current situation. My parents are now facing the very real possibility of bankruptcy. The company that my grandfather started, that my dad spent his life building, and that I helped modernize, might have to be sold off just to pay the debts Ethan accumulated. Several employees have already been laid off because they can't meet the payroll, and more layoffs are coming. My mom finally broke down and called me last week. For the first time, she didn't try to defend Ethan or Daphne. She just cried and asked how things had gone so wrong. I wanted to tell her exactly how, by choosing an unqualified person to run a business just because he was married to their favorite child, but I held my tongue. She's finally realizing their mistake, but it's too late now. The most recent development is that some of our former clients have been calling my parents, telling them that Ethan had been offering massive unauthorized discounts and making promises about products we never even manufactured, just to keep them from switching to my company. He apparently thought he could figure out how to actually deliver these promises later, but of course, he never could. The remaining managers are jumping ship as fast as they can. Most of Ethan's friends who he hired have already left, leaving half-finished projects and confused staff behind. The factory is operating at less than 30% capacity because they can't afford raw materials, and the few clients they have left are threatening legal action over delayed orders. I'm hearing rumors that my parents are considering selling what's left of the business before it completely collapses. Part of me feels sad seeing my family's legacy crumbling like this, but another part knows this was inevitable the moment they chose to hand it over to someone so unqualified and unethical. Update 3. I didn't expect to be writing another update so soon, but yesterday something happened that I think will be the final chapter in this whole mess. My parents showed up at my office unannounced around closing time. I hardly recognized them at first. They looked like they had aged 10 years in the past few months. My dad, who always kept himself well groomed and dressed sharply, was in wrinkled clothes and looked defeated. My mom, who used to color her hair religiously, now had visible gray streaks. They came to apologize, they said. Finally admitted they had been foolish to trust Ethan just because Daphne convinced them he was some kind of business genius. My dad broke down while explaining how everything they had built over decades was now practically worthless. The company that once employed over 200 people now has barely 30 workers left. They're behind on loan payments, vendors have blacklisted them, and their reputation in the industry is completely destroyed. But the real bombshell came when they told me what happened with Ethan. Last week, when things got really bad and some creditors started threatening legal action, he simply disappeared. Left a note for Daphne saying he was sorry but he couldn't handle the pressure anymore. Took their savings and just vanished. My sister is now living with our parents, still trying to defend him, saying he must have had a mental breakdown because of all the stress. She's convinced he'll come back once things cool down. My parents came with a proposal. They want me to consider buying their company and merging it with mine. They said they couldn't bear to see our family legacy sold to strangers, and they had no one else to turn to. My mom actually got on her knees, which was shocking because she's never been one to humble herself, begging me to help save what's left of the business. I asked them about the debts and legal issues. Turns out, there's even more trouble than I thought. Some clients are threatening fraud charges because Ethan had taken advance payments for orders he knew he couldn't fulfill. The bank is moving to seize some of the mortgaged assets. 3 vendors have already filed lawsuits for unpaid dues. I listened to everything quietly and told them I needed time to think about it. But honestly, I've already made up my mind. Their company is too far gone to save. The debts are more than the assets are worth, the equipment is outdated because Ethan never maintained it properly, and the reputation damage would take years to repair. Merging it with my growing business would be like tying a concrete block to someone who's swimming. More importantly, I've finally built something of my own. My company is doing well, we're planning to expand to 2 more states next year, and I have a team that I trust completely. I'm not going to risk all that just because my parents finally realized their mistake. When my parents left, my mom tried one last time, saying blood is thicker than water. I reminded her that I was their blood too, but that didn't matter when they chose Ethan over me. They can sell what's left of the company to whoever is willing to buy it. I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from toxic family situations and build your own path. It might seem harsh, but I'm actually happier now than I've ever been working in the family business. This will probably be my last update. Thanks to everyone who supported me through this journey. Sometimes losing what you thought you wanted leads you to build something better.